Hey guys, I'm finally here to talk about Interstellar. Now, this video will probably be long. I will rant on this movie for a bit, but before I say anything negative about this movie, I'm gonna reassure you folks, I did like this movie. I did. 3 hours is a bit too long for my taste, especially for this movie, but you know what? I did like it for the most part. I thought the acting's very good. Matthew McConaughey, spectacular. I thought he was great. I love it every time he talks with his daughter, who's played by the girl, I think her name is Mackenzie Foy, I could be wrong. She's the daughter of Edward and Bella from Twilight, Breaking Dawn Part 2. I thought both of them had great chemistry. I thought both of them, every time they're on screen together, I just love it. The supporting cast is mostly very good. Michael Caine is just Michael Caine. He's good in this, but he seems like to be the Christopher Nolan staple. He's basically playing Alfred in this movie, but I'm okay with that. Anne Hathaway, I really like this actress. She was good in the movie for what she did, but the problem is, yeah, I'll get to the problems, but let me talk about the good stuff. Like I said, the acting's very good. Jessica Chastain, oh my god, she is great. She's hot and she's great. And there's Wes Bentley. Topher Grace. Topher Grace was also pretty good in this movie. Actually, almost every single actor is very good in this movie. There's one actor who I will not mention yet, but he did a good job for what he did. I'll get to him later on in this movie. The score by Hans Zimmer. Amazing. Spectacular. Beautiful. Brilliant. Wow, I love this score. Hans Zimmer did such a great job. It is so damn good. It reminds me so much of 2001: A Space Odyssey, E.T., Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It's so good. When I first heard this, I'm like, whoa, this movie is freaking awesome. Even though what I'm seeing on screen doesn't make sense at all, or it seems way too stupid, the score just made up for it. And also the visuals. Oh my god. This is probably the most CGI that Christopher Nolan has ever used in any of his movies. But if he achieved this with practical effects, I would believe it. I really would believe it. It is so beautiful. It's so gorgeous. The shots are spectacular. The visual effects, oh my god, it is so beautiful. Honestly, so far, I think this is the most beautiful movie I've seen this year so far. Oh my god. Yep, it is worthy of a nomination for Best Visual Effects. It has to be. And hopefully, Best Score too. Alright, the negatives before I go into major spoiler territory. The problem with this movie, especially for all Christopher Nolan movies, all the humans don't really talk like humans. They often just give speeches, exposition, or just explain something for way too goddamn long. These humans don't really have actual normal conversations. The only reason why Matthew McConaughey and the daughter work is because they actually sounded human for once. So it sounds like an actual father talking to an actual daughter. And Matthew McConaughey and the girl worked so well together. They really did. But every time Matthew McConaughey talks to someone else, even his own son, it just doesn't work. It makes it seem alien. They seem like aliens to each other. It's like they don't really know each other. I mean, no one really asked about how they really feeling, how they are, what are their interests, or whatever. I mean, later on, it turns out that Anne Hathaway and Matthew McConaughey are supposed to be an item together. They have a romance. Matthew McConaughey loves Anne Hathaway. I did not buy that at all. And to me, if you think it was awkward to see Catwoman kissing Batman out of nowhere in The Dark Knight Rises, I believe that more than Matthew McConaughey loving Anne Hathaway, because every time they even spoke to each other, it's nothing about what their interests are. It's nothing about their what they feel or whatever. It's Anne Hathaway just gives a speech on love at one point about the love transcends all elements and stuff. Love is like the virtual element that surpasses human knowledge and everything. And Matthew McConaughey's like, well, you got a guy killed. Seriously, that means they fell in love or something like that. And yeah, every time they spoke to each other, it's about the mission. It's not like they share some common interest, like, oh, do you like hot cocoa or something like that? Nothing like that. So I'm supposed to buy that these two have a romance? I understand if they just have spontaneous sex. I understand that, but they didn't even do that. So I don't get it. Honestly, out of all the human characters, John Lithgow is like the most human. Seriously, he was hilarious in this movie. He was great. I wanted more of John Lithgow because he's like the human component to Matthew McConaughey. And I don't get it. There's a scene in the movie where Matthew McConaughey was looking at lines of dust, which are exact straight lines of dust, and John Lithgow passes by and he's like, can you please clean that mess up after you're done praying to it? That was great. A very human reaction, very human response. But Matthew McConaughey's like, I'm a robot. I'm just, checking up these lines of dust. Honestly, there are some times I'm like, probably these guys are robots because they remind me so much of David from Prometheus. Speaking of which, David, played by Michael Fassbender, is more human than these characters. My God, how do you do that, Christopher Nolan? How do you do that? Anyway, so that's my kind of major gripe, but I was pretty much okay with it, I guess, because I've already seen so many Christopher Nolan movies and I like them. The Prestige, I really liked. The Dark Knight trilogy, even the Dark Knight Rises, I really liked. So, yeah, I was okay with that. So, that's why I was able to accept that for an extent. So now I'm going to go into full-on spoiler territory. I don't know exactly how far into the future this is, but the Earth is surrounded by dust storms, and because of that, the only food source is corn. I don't really buy that fully, but for the movie's sakes, I just let that slide. And also, that kind of explains why I didn't see any Asians in this movie, because corn is the only food source, so all the rice is gone. If that's the future, the actual future, I would not survive at all. I need my rice, man. So the perspective of the movie is from Cooper, played by Matthew McConaughey. He's a farmer who used to be an astronaut or a pilot. He used to be a pilot who worked for NASA. And now he's a farmer. He has a daughter and a son. And his father is living with him also in this farm. I totally forgot where this movie takes place. I thought it was Texas. I could be wrong, though. All I know is that the New York Yankees were playing at one point. Yeah, it was kind of funny to see that because John Lithgow is like, who the hell are these rookies? And it turns out to be the New York Yankees. So the Earth is surrounded by these dust storms, which happens frequently. One morning, when they were checking up the farm, it turns out it was surrounded by the dust storm, and one of the windows to the room is open. So Murph tried to close it, but she couldn't, so Matthew McConaughey closed it. And then he sees that there are straight lines of dust on the floor. So he thought, something weird, because it's straight lines of dust on the floor. And Murph told him about that there's probably a ghost haunting the house. And he's like, oh no, Murph, there can't be ghosts. But if you provide scientific evidence that there are ghosts, you know what? Then I'll believe you. So Murph is like, okay, Daddy. So she is providing evidence about this ghost because there was one point earlier in the movie where the model of the probe or something like that fell off and it broke in half, and she believed that the ghost did it because it's impossible for her to break it, and also some of the books fell off, and then it turns out it spells out the word stay. So Matthew McConaughey is checking out these lines of dust, and then he's like, holy shit, it's Morse code. I don't know how he figured that, but yeah, he figured out it's Morse code because he's like, okay, there's short lines of dust and there's fat lines of dust, so it's Morse code. So after he solved that, it turns out they are coordinates. Now, remember, this ghost thing is very important to the movie. At first, when I saw the ghost, I'm like, okay, it's either an alien, someone from the past, or someone from the future. So someone is trying to send them a message. But Matthew McConaughey is like, oh, gravity did this. I did not understand that part. If someone can write me a comment below about how that really works, yeah, just let me know. Because he said gravity is the reason why there are these lines of dust. Straight lines of dust. And they form a pattern. How? Okay? How? In this specific part of this room, in this house, out of all places, gravity made straight lines of dust. Gravity. Nothing else. I would buy magnetism. Seriously, I would buy that, but gravity? Exact straight lines of dust in Morse code, which could give out coordinates. Gravity. What? I know it's explained in that scene near the end of the movie, but when he said that, I just did not understand. How can gravity do that? I don't get it. So anyway, Matthew McConaughey checks up these coordinates and he drives over there with Murph and he sees an abandoned facility. And he sees that there's a fence around it, so he goes into it. Then it turns out there's armed security over there, and then they knocked him out and then brought him and his daughter inside the facility. Turns out that it's NASA. Yeah, NASA. Out of all places, Matthew McConaughey just stumbled into NASA. And what I really like about this part is that he is introduced to a robot. And, oh my god, I don't know which robot this was. I think it was C.A.S.E. He met the first robot to be C.A.S.E. And C.A.S.E. and T.A.R.S. Those are the two robots in this movie. And this movie came out the same weekend as Big Hero 6. The robots are awesome. Baymax is awesome. C.A.S.E. and T.A.R.S. are awesome. I love the design of these guys. And also I love the way they talk because they are basically sarcastic robots. Like the funnier versions, the actual funnier versions of Skid and Mudflap from Transformers 2. And these ones you can actually tolerate. Seriously, these are sarcastic, funny robots, and I love them. And I love their design. They're basically just giant metal blocks, which are basically Jenga blocks. And once they walk or run, at first they walk like lumbering Lego blocks, and then when they run, they spin like an asterisk, or when they carry something, their big arms turn into little arms that turn into like crane arms to pick up someone. It's pretty awesome design. I love these two guys. And also, they're funny. They're hilarious. And that's a real sad thing. They're more human than the humans. Robots are more human than the humans. What? So after Matthew McConaughey talks to the robot, he talks with Anne Hathaway, who turns out to be the daughter of Michael Caine. And Michael Caine plays a guy that Matthew McConaughey once knew. And not just that, Michael Caine used to be Matthew McConaughey's boss at NASA. Yeah, out of all coincidences, right? Duh. Seriously, at this point in the movie, I was just shaking my head. I'm like, Christopher Nolan, why? You could say it's fate. You could say that. But Jesus Christ, really? Think about it. Matthew McConaughey got lines of dust in his own freaking house, and it turns out they're coordinates to NASA. And NASA is run by Michael Caine, who used to be Matthew McConaughey's boss. What are the frickin' odds? Like I said, I understand. It's explained later on in the movie why this whole shit happens. But Jesus Christ, man. But I just love Michael Caine's explanation for all this. He's like, you know, how do you know where to come to us, Matthew McConaughey? And Matthew McConaughey's like, I don't know, I just stumbled into here. And Michael Caine's like, no one just stumbles into NASA. I was like, really? Not once in history. No one stumbled over here? Not once? Not by accident? Not once? I don't believe that. I do not believe that at all. Now, one person was just curious enough to see this abandoned facility and try to go past the fence. Not one person. And also, it's not really guarded that well. Sure, there were armed guards, but they just let their position known very quickly. Seriously, I didn't get that. No one just stumbles into NASA, of course, because it's blocked off by just a fence. And it's just a gated fence also, the one you could break with a wire cutter. Ugh. Anyway, out of all coincidences, turns out that Michael Caine is creating this project. So they're gonna fly a spaceship into outer space because they found this black hole near Saturn, and they're gonna enter that black hole to find a new planet for human race. And because the corn is running out, so the humans are becoming extinct. So yeah, that's the story basically. Out of all coincidences, right? And turns out that Matthew McConaughey used to be an ex-pilot, so he just stumbled onto NASA, and Michael Caine's like, oh shit, you used to work for us, so you know what? We'll use you for this mission. And Matthew McConaughey's like, I don't wanna. I wanna be with my family. I don't wanna do this. And Michael Caine's like, but you can save the human race. I'm sorry for the William Shatner. You know what? William Shatner should be in this movie to make it more funny. Or Michael Caine pretending to be William Shatner. Honestly, Michael Caine needs more humor in these kinds of movies. I mean, sure, he's basically playing Alfred, but Alfred had some witty lines in the Dark Knight trilogy. Here he was really monotone and boring, and he's always depressed. Yeah, I'm Michael Caine. So eventually Matthew McConaughey's like, yep, I'll go into space because I care about my kids. And also I gave a long speech about humans are not supposed to die on Earth, so I have to make up for that. So Matthew McConaughey has to say a very tearful farewell to his family. I don't think he really cares about his son that much because he only spent like 30 seconds with his son. He's like, okay, son. Bye, son. You can have the car, son. See you later. Bye. That's it to the son. But he has like a tearful 10-minute goodbye with the daughter. And you know what? It's good. I mean, I was sad. I didn't want him to leave his daughter. Their relationship together is good, and she was crying so heavily. She didn't want him to go. She's trying to tell him that the ghost wrote stay. Why aren't you fucking listening to the ghost, Matthew McConaughey? Even the ghost dropped the book down to make sure that Matthew McConaughey realized it. And Matthew McConaughey's like, a book fell down by itself, even though there's not an earthquake or anything, and the shelf is just fine. Bye! Seriously, I was like, what? You don't think about checking that out? You don't think that's a sign? Your daughter just told you about this shit! However, yeah, like I said, that scene was very, very touching though, because I did not want Matthew McConaughey to leave. I wanted him to stay with the daughter. Just stay with the daughter until they both died. That should have been better. But no, he's like, you know what, I gotta be a hero anyway because I'm Matthew McConaughey, and also I won an Academy Award, and I was in The Wolf of Wall Street, and I was better than Leonardo DiCaprio. But right after he said his farewell, I gotta say, this transition was beautiful. Because you see Matthew McConaughey driving away. You see the son and the grandfather looking back at him. And then you see the daughter running out of the house, regretting everything she didn't do. She regret not saying goodbye to her own father before he leaves. And she's crying, and it was all in slow motion. Matthew McConaughey is crying and looking back as well, and he's driving over there. And at the same time, you hear in the background, you hear the countdown of the shuttle. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And once it reaches 0, then you see the shot of the shuttle igniting its engines and launched into space. That was great. I love that transition. That was perfect. Usually how it works in movies is that they say their farewells, and then they do a training montage thing, and then they go off into space. Usually that's how it works in movies. But Christopher Nolan's like, Michael Bay always does that. We're going to try something new. We're just going to launch into space. And everyone's like, really? That's kind of original. Okay. So Matthew McConaughey goes into space along with 3 other crew members and a robot. What? I didn't get that. 3 crew members and a robot. You know, I had problems with Prometheus because they said they only brought 17 crew members and none of them are military. 3 crew members and a robot. At least the robot is very, very useful, but just 3 crew members. One of them is Wes Bentley, one of them is Anne Hathaway, and one of them is from the guy that played, he was from Cloud Atlas. I liked him in Cloud Atlas. I totally forgot his name now. But yeah, just 3 crew members and a robot. Why? I think Michael Caine did mention something about that, but I didn't get it. They have so many workers at NASA, but they only decide to bring 4 humans and a robot on this very, very important mission to save the human race? What? Probably didn't have that many people saying, oh yeah, I'll join the mission or something like that. Matthew McConaughey didn't even want to join at all. So they had no choice, but wait, that confused me also. Who was going to fly the shuttle? Who was, originally? I think Michael Caine said something about that, but he didn't really specify. Who was supposed to fly the shuttle? I totally forgot. Was it Anne Hathaway or Wes Bentley or the other guy? Or just Case? I don't know. But yeah, apparently it was just, until Matthew McConaughey just came along, it was just those 3 guys. Really? I mean, the fate of the human race rests on these 4 guys now. And a robot. I don't know. If I want to save the human race, I would put all my cards on the table, man. I would put every single motherfucker on that ship. Everyone! Probably they explained it. It's like, oh, they don't have that much space or something like that. But come on! You said that you sent 11 astronauts already to explore these 3 planets within this black hole. 11! 4! What? And also, these 11 astronauts did not contact back at all. So, they still think, oh, these 3 planets could be inhabitable. What? The 11 astronauts did not make a contact back. Aren't you worried that it's probably a trap? Or they're probably dead or anything? They're like, oh no, we sent these 11 astronauts and you know what, we're doing research on these 3 planets, so one of them could be suitable for the human race, so yeah. And now one of them is like, aren't you worried that someone died already? No one thought about that. No one thought about that. Also, no one thought of a backup plan in case if Matthew McConaughey and his crew dies or fails. Seriously, there's no backup plan to this. This mission is like the only thing. I'm kind of confused by that. I mean, sure, they had a plan A and a plan B. Plan A is to save the human race by finding a planet so Michael Kang can create an equation or algorithm so he can transport all the humans to that planet. So, but the plan B is fuck the Earth, fuck the human race. We have a bunch of eggs and a bunch of sperm, and we're gonna repopulate the planet. So that was plan B. Honestly, though, there should have been a plan C. Create Titan AE. Seriously, at that point, I'm like, did nobody try to, like, create another Earth? Or try to create another planet or something like that? I mean, I think they explained that also in the movie, like, they're trying to create a substitute for corn. It just doesn't work, but come on! You have all these scientists and engineers, and you can't figure out another substitute for another food source? Nada? Also, they didn't really explain why corn is the only food source in the end. Heck, they didn't really explain why the Earth is covered in all these dust storms. Seriously, it just happens. It just happens. I know they said something about technology and stuff, and they say, oh, if you're not smart enough, then you can't work with technology, you can't work with machines, you should be a farmer. And yeah, there was a scene earlier on in the movie where Cooper was talking with the principal and the teacher of Murph, and that's why he got her suspended, because the teacher said, oh, we're not going to talk about the moon landings because it's all about propaganda. We want people to focus on the Earth instead of leaving it. Bitch, you're not helping at all. So anyway, Matthew McConaughey and the crew are in space, and it takes 2 years to go from the Earth to the black hole in Saturn. So they go into the hypersleep chamber, they sleep it off, then they wake up around the black hole, and then they finally enter the black hole. And yeah, the black hole sequence, beautiful. Oh my god. Until that scene, I was basically like, oh my god, this movie is kind of stupid, why is it going this way? But then I saw the visual effect of the black hole. That scene alone, I was like, so pretty. Seriously, that scene was very pretty. I was speechless. I couldn't say anything. My eyes couldn't even freaking blink because I was worried that if I blink, I'll miss like a couple frames of that beautiful imagery. Seriously, I love the black hole sequence. That was beautiful. So once they entered the black hole, when they were entering the black hole, it turns out that Anne Hathaway sees some anomaly on the side of her. So she's like, oh, I might as well go touch it. I was like, girl, you have no idea what the hell that thing is! Why would you think about touching it? But she's like, hey, oh, I'm shaking hands with it. Ah. I was like, girl, stop doing that! So I thought she was going to lose her hand at that point, but no, it was fine. It was fine. It was whimsical. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. So they finally passed through the black hole and entered this whole new galaxy. They don't really know where they are, but they discovered these 3 planets that the 11 astronauts have been on. So they decided to go on to the first one. Here's the thing, though. I don't know why. I guess that's why we needed the training montage, because Matthew McConaughey asked all these important questions during the mission. Not before, during. So once they're about to go into one of the planets, one person, I forgot who it was, but he or she said that, oh yeah, this planet, once you enter the atmosphere, because of how close it is to the black hole, time is kind of different. And Matthew McConaughey's like, what do you mean? Well, if you stay over there for 1 hour, it equals up to 7 Earth years. Matthew McConaughey's like, huh, why no one told me that? And at that point, I'm like, why no one told the pilot that? Don't fucking tell me that, oh, they just found out new information once they got there. No. 11 astronauts visited these 3 planets, alright? I don't know how many astronauts came to this planet alone, but apparently they had enough data to determine that, oh yeah, once you go over there, 1 hour inside that planet equals 7 Earth years. You don't think you should tell the pilot of your mission that already? I think Matthew McConaughey should have known this before he went into space. He just knew it like a couple minutes before they decided to go to that planet. I didn't get that. Why don't you tell your pilot these things? You could say, oh, it's a conspiracy and all that stuff, but no. We're talking about the fate of the human race here. And this pilot, he's not a dumbass. He's actually smart. He's useful. Matthew McConaughey is useful. And you decide to not tell him this very crucial information, especially that since this guy has a freaking family that he wants to go to, he already knows that he spent 2 years in freaking space trying to go to the black hole. So do you think this guy is trying to risk even 1 hour in this planet if it's gonna waste 7 Earth years? No! No! Oh god. So that means they have to plan carefully. They have to coordinate. They have to say, okay, so we have this much fuel, so we have to go to this planet for this amount of time. We have to go to this place in this planet and something like that. No, they don't really talk about it that much. They're like, okay, fine, I just spend 10 minutes on this planet, then we leave. Boom, that's it. That was their plan. Shit goes wrong, of course. And here's the thing about the planets in these movies. First off, this first planet they're going to. It is very interesting, the fact that if you spend 1 hour over there, it equals about 7 Earth years. That part alone is cool. The fact that this planet is just filled with water. There's no landmass or anything. That's kind of cool. But does it really have to look like the Earth, just surrounded by water? Seriously, it's Waterworld. I expected Kevin Costner to just jump out of nowhere. Christopher Nolan, come on. I mean, at least make the world a different color or something. I mean, Jesus Christ. It's just regular blue water. And they don't really explain that much about this planet anyway, besides the time difference thing. Because once they land in this planet, they're like, oh, the gravity's a bit heavier than the one on Earth. Okay, that's kind of interesting. And once they land, it turns out that the water is like knee-high. But they don't talk about what surface they're actually walking on. Seriously, I mean, this planet is surrounded by water. There's not even an inch of land. But what the hell are they walking on? The water is knee-high. But when you look down, it looks like they're still swimming in the ocean. It's a deep, dark abyss. But they're walking on something. They don't even compliment on that. So they're like, oh yeah, I think the landing of the 11 astronauts thing is around there, so I'm going to go there and then, you know, retrieve the black box or something like that. So, yeah, Anne Hathaway is like, oh, I see the black box over there, I'm going to retrieve it. But when she was getting there, she's like, oh, look at the big mountains. And Matthew McConaughey's like, those are not mountains, those are waves. So yeah, you see these giant waves the size of Mount Everest, and it's coming towards them very quickly. So what Anne Hathaway decides to do? Oh, I'm going to be stupid and still try to get the black box. What? Matthew McConaughey's like, bitch, no, you get back here. You get your ass back here. You're not going to get that black box because you're going to die. We all going to die because of you. And Anne Hathaway's like, oh no, I think I can make it. And then 2 seconds later, she's like, oh no, I'm stuck. I was like, why? No, I love Anne Hathaway, but does she have to play such a stupid character? Why is this character so stupid? So stupid! So Matthew McConaughey is like, T.A.R.S, get her ass over here. And T.A.R.S is like, on my way. I'm transforming now. So he turns into a spinning asterisk, and he's basically just surfing on the water. And so he grabs Anne Hathaway, and he has this awesome Jenga arms, and he picks up Anne Hathaway and then goes back to the ship. Then something weird happens. Wes Bentley is on this mission also, and he decides to go out with Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway on this planet. The other guy from Cloud Atlas decides to stay at the Endurance, the spaceport thing, back outside of the planet's atmosphere, just in case if something goes wrong. And sure enough, something goes wrong. So Wes Bentley, for some reason, decides to stay outside the space shuttle just waiting for Anne Hathaway. So after Anne Hathaway and T.A.R.S goes inside the space shuttle, Wes Bentley got hit by the wave and is swept away, and he's basically dead. So the space shuttle was wrecked, kind of. This space shuttle is stranded. It can still work, but the problem is that its thrusters are not working. So Matthew McConaughey, Anne Hathaway, and T.A.R.S is stuck on the planet for a little bit. Matthew McConaughey is pissed off because of Anne Hathaway's actions, because Wes Bentley is dead. And here's the thing though, I feel bad for Wes Bentley because I like this actor. Hell, I like this character a lot more in the Hunger Games, but here, I'm supposed to care for him, but at the same time, I don't know who this guy is. I'm like, oh, he's a scientist dude. That's it. I don't know if he has a family. I don't know if he has kids. I don't know if he has a girlfriend or a boyfriend. I don't even know if he's gay. I don't even know he has a pet back at home or nothing. Nada. You don't know anything about this character, and you're supposed to feel bad about it? I feel bad for Wes Bentley for playing this character who we don't care about. So Matthew McConaughey, of course, is pissed off because he's like, no, I only want to stay 10 minutes. I'm willing to spend 10 minutes on this freaking planet, but no, because of you, Anne Hathaway. My kids are practically the same age as me right now. So once they finally got the shuttle working and leave the dreadful planet, they went back to the Endurance, and it turns out that, yep, they get the bad news. The guy says that the 23 years has passed. He thought that Anne Hathaway and Matthew McConaughey are dead because he was worried that they would never come back. He thought he's going insane, and he thought he was going to die alone in space. Even though I had problems with this scene before, you know, when Anne Hathaway fucked shit up, once they reached the Endurance and Matthew McConaughey received the bad news, yeah, this scene is my favorite scene in the entire movie. My most favorite scene. It's so tragic. And the way it's done, the way it's shot, beautiful. It's brilliant. And the score. Seriously, I was getting teary-eyed. I was. Because Matthew McConaughey, he didn't really say that much. He just goes into a room and then checks up 23 years of footage. 23 years of video messages from his kids. So during this scene, you see him watch his own kids grow in front of his eyes for 23 years. His son is no longer a teenager, he becomes a young adult. He sees his son not just become a farmer, but he gets married and has his own son. So now Matthew McConaughey, who's like 45 years old, I believe, gets a grandson. And he couldn't even believe that. The entire time, you're just seeing the light on Matthew McConaughey's face, and he's crying, and he's happy. He's laughing at some points because he couldn't believe that he's a grandfather. He couldn't believe that his son is married. But at the same time, he's so freaking sad that he wasn't there for his own son. That was really, really heartbreaking. And then the final video message from his son. The son is like, "I'm sorry, Dad. I don't even know if you're still alive anymore. It's been 23 years. I'm not even sure if you're coming back. My wife said I should let you go, so I'm going to let you go. I'm sorry, Dad. There's no more message from you, from me to you." And Matthew McConaughey's like, no, please don't go. Please don't go. And then, you know, the transmission cuts off for the son. But it doesn't stop there. No, it gets even more tragic. Murph finally decides to send a video message to her father for the first time in 23 years. She did not send a video message at all to her father the entire time. And the only reason she sent this one is because that she's the same age of Matthew McConaughey when he decided to leave Earth. Wow! Once she said that, I'm like, girl! No! That's just... that burns! That hurts! And Matthew McConaughey's like, oh, why'd you say that, girl? You bitch! And then it goes to the perspective of Jessica Chastain. She was great as older Murph. Yeah, I did like the fact that this movie is from the perspective of not only Matthew McConaughey, but from Jessica Chastain. I thought that was very, very good. Then you follow Jessica Chastain, and she's basically working for Michael Caine. Michael Caine is in a wheelchair. He didn't look like he aged. 23 years have passed, he looks exactly the same. But John Lithgow died. I was like, what? John Lithgow is dead, but Michael Caine looks exactly the same? What? And then later on, Michael Caine dies, and right before he dies, he tells Jessica Chastain the truth. That this whole mission was a sham. NASA has been lying to everyone. Seriously, they were gonna go along with Plan B the entire time. Plan A was not even an option. And they didn't even tell this to Anne Hathaway or Matthew McConaughey. So Jessica Chastain couldn't believe this. And also, Michael Caine solved the algorithm. He solved the equation. He just decides not to send the human race over there. So at this point, I'm like, wait. So all of NASA are a bunch of assholes who would let the Earth die? What? I don't know how to feel about that. Wow, that took me... Seriously, my mouth dropped when I heard that. I'm like, what? NASA? No! Wow, no. So Jessica Chastain couldn't even believe what she heard. So that's why she sent the video message to Matthew McConaughey and to Anne Hathaway. She's like, Anne Hathaway, I'm sorry that your bastard father died, and also he told me the truth. You knew, didn't you? And it cuts back to Matthew McConaughey. So, it turns out that because 23 years have passed, the Endurance does not have that much fuel left. So they only have one chance to go to a different planet. But there's 2 planets left, but they can only go to 1. So, and during this time, Anne Hathaway gives a big-ass long speech about love because she wants to go to this one planet because her lover was there. And Matthew McConaughey's like, oh yeah, dude from Cloud Atlas, you gotta listen to this. Anne Hathaway wants to go to this planet because her lover is there. And the other dude is like, aren't you the reason why Wes Bentley is dead? You know what, let's go to the other planet. So they decide to go to the ice planet. So basically this planet looks like Alaska or Antarctica. Basically it's just filled with ice. It looks like Hoth, basically. But I guess the most interesting thing about this planet is that the clouds, because it's so damn cold, the clouds are basically ice clouds. So there's this scene where Matthew McConaughey is flying the space shuttle down into the atmosphere. He kind of crashed into an ice cloud. And then he looks at it and he's like, huh! Frozen clouds. Gotta avoid that in the future. So at that point you're thinking, oh, they're gonna show more of these things, right? Nope. That's the only time. Yep, the ice clouds are only used once for like 15 seconds. What the fuck, Christopher Nolan? And also, the environments look exactly like, remember the scene where Batman was going into the mountains trying to find Ra's al Ghul or something like that? Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that scene. And also, it looks very similar to the scene from Inception when they were taking down the fortress. So, I don't even... It's probably the same location, I don't know. But what's with Christopher Nolan and ice and snowy mountains? And yeah, that's the thing about these planets. These planets don't seem like alien planets. They seem like regular... It seems like places you go on Earth. Seriously. The water world. Just go into the middle of the ocean and be stranded there. That's it. That's the planet. Go to Antarctica. Yeah, that's the planet. And the third planet, which basically looks like Mars, or you go to the Mojave Desert and just stare at the sun for too long, then look down into the environment. Yeah, that's how the third planet looks. Then again, I guess it's because he wants to be realistic, I guess. So he wants to ground it in reality. I kind of respect him for that, but at the same time, you're going to different planets, man! Different planets! I mean, Destiny came out recently, and sure, you go to Venus, Mars, and all that stuff, but at least, I think in Venus, there's like a rainforest or something like that, so at least that's kind of interesting. But here, you go to these 3 planets, and they're pretty bland. I mean, there's a kind of certain sci-fi element that makes them a bit different from regular planets, but Jesus Christ, man. The ice clouds, you only use that for 15 seconds and not for the rest of the movie? God damn. I guess I've been spoiled by so many alien planets for, 26 years of movie watching. So I love Pandora from Avatar. Say what you will about the movie Avatar. I thought Pandora was beautiful. I like the world in Predators. I like the world in Alien and Aliens, Alien 3 and Alien 4. Christopher Nolan, you are smart. You are brilliant. Why these 3 planets are basically places on Earth? Seriously, man, come on! So they land onto this planet and they check up one of the base camps. And in this base camp, they check up the hypersleep chamber. And then you see this actor that you didn't expect to be in this movie. Matt Damon! Seriously, I did not expect Matt Damon to be in this movie. I knew it was going to be a celebrity cameo. I knew it was going to be some celebrity. I just thought that it was either Christian Bale or someone else. I really thought it was going to be Christian Bale. Or probably even Leonardo DiCaprio. But no, it was Matt Damon. And my jaw dropped when I saw that. I'm like, Matt Damon. And yep, he's the actor I was talking about in the beginning of this video. He was good for what he did. What did he play as? A crazy man. Seriously, he plays a crazy man. He plays a cliched, loner survivor crazy man who ends up destroying shit and almost kills the main characters. He's one of those guys. I hate this cliche. I've seen it so many times. I just seen it recently in that Paul W.S. Anderson movie. I believe it's called Pandorum or something like that. And yeah, what's up with this cliche? Also in Sunshine, too. Damn, the movies could have been so much better if they didn't have these characters. So Matt Damon plays this crazy scientist who thought that he was gonna die. So he was crazy. So he sends a fake SOS or something like that. So he can say, oh, save me. But the planet is very good for humans, even though it isn't. Oh my god. And he tries to kill Matthew McConaughey at one point. Ah, man. And this character I don't get. If the purpose of... If all he wanted was to leave the planet. All he had to do was shut the hell up, not kill anyone, not ruin shit, and just, stand by Matthew McConaughey. Because you know why? Matthew McConaughey just got the video message from his own daughter, and he's like, you know what? Fuck this shit, I'm going back to Earth. Because I've been lied to, Anne Hathaway's been lied to, we're going back to Earth. That's the problem. I think that's the point of Matt Damon's character. I think he really wanted to go back home. Seriously, he was all alone all these years. Hell, he was willing to die a long sleep. So I didn't get this character. He just fucked shit up. I don't understand it. So he had a fist fight with Matthew McConaughey. And my god, what a boring ass fist fight. This fist fight was out of nowhere. Ugh. I guess it's trying to resemble like Indiana Jones when Indiana Jones was fighting with the muscular guy on top of the airplane. I guess it's trying to resemble that. But the problem is that this movie, I mean, it's boring. It's just a regular fist fight. I mean, that's why I thought they were going to use the ice clouds more. I'm like, holy shit, so Matthew McConaughey and Matt Damon are going to fall off this cliff and they're going to land on an ice cloud? That's going to be awesome. No, they don't do that. They just fall off this cliff and then just land on solid rock and then they just wrestle with each other a little bit and Matt Damon just headbutts Matthew McConaughey so his helmet can break. This is Christopher Nolan. He gave us a great fight scene in Inception, for Christ's sake. Oh, God, man. So Matt Damon had a rigged robot which blew up the guy from Cloud Atlas. Again, I don't really know much about his character, so I'm supposed to feel bad for him. Apparently. Ugh. That guy dies. Matt Damon's like, holy shit, Anne Hathaway and Matthew McConaughey are onto me. I'm gonna steal a shuttle and go to the Endurance. So Matthew McConaughey's like, oh, I knew something like this is gonna happen, so I jammed the autopilot on the Matt Damon shuttle. So he has to land perfectly, otherwise he can't dock onto the Endurance. So Matt Damon knows this. Even though he knows this, even though he knows that if he does not fully dock perfectly, because he doesn't have autopilot, so he tried to do it manually, so it's not perfect. If he tried to open the air duct, he will die. He knows this. All he had to do was not do shit. But no, he's like, oh, I'm not gonna listen to you, Matthew McConaughey, blah, 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 not listening, blah, 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 I'm gonna give a speech. Okay, so there's this one time, boom! Seriously, you see an explosion come out of nowhere and Matt Damon just dies. I was like, I was laughing in my seat. I'm like, he was in the middle of a sentence and he died. I don't think that's supposed to be the reaction, okay? I think I was supposed to be horrified that Matt Damon is dead, but no, I was laughing in my seat. And so, the Endurance, because it exploded, there's a portion of it, and it was on fire and stuff, and then it's spinning out of control, so it's heading towards the planet. So, and it's gonna burn up in the atmosphere. So, Matthew McConaughey is like, okay, I'm gonna do this awesome action scene. So, Matthew McConaughey flies the shuttle, and he goes under the Endurance. But because the Endurance is spinning, Matthew McConaughey spins the shuttle at the same time, too, so he can match with the airlock. This scene was awesome. It was. I never seen a scene like this in a sci-fi movie before. I thought that I would see one, but no, this was awesome. It kind of sounds stupid, but when you see it, it's just glorious. Seriously, Matthew McConaughey spinning a spaceship underneath another spaceship, and it spins, so he has to spin at the same time so he can dock it. Cool. But unfortunately, because of the explosion, the Endurance doesn't have that much fuel, and Matthew McConaughey's like, fuck it, we're gonna go onto the planet. We should have done that in the first place, but we're like, you kind of screwed us on that one, so we didn't listen to you, Anne Hathaway. So we're gonna go to that planet, Anne Hathaway. So Anne Hathaway's like, oh, we should have done that in the first place. Probably all this shit shouldn't have happened. So Matthew McConaughey's like, okay, I'm gonna sacrifice myself, Anne Hathaway, and Anne Hathaway's like, what? Okay, bye! So Matthew McConaughey basically sacrificed himself. He gives enough fuel to Anne Hathaway's space shuttle, so she and C.A.S.E, I believe, the C.A.S.E robot, go straight to that planet where her lover was. And Matthew McConaughey and T.A.R.S is spinning out of control, and they fell into the black hole, or the Gargantua. So here's the thing. This scene happens right after this. This 20-minute long scene. I thought this scene should have been cut. I thought that, you know, after Matthew McConaughey goes into the Gargantua, and then it cuts there, and then it shows him outside the Gargantua again, and then he gets saved. I thought the movie should have been like that. Save me 20 minutes of torture. Okay, now I'm going to talk about this scene. If people like this scene, good for you. I just didn't. Because I thought way too long and hard about it. In the end, it just doesn't make sense because, oh my god. I gotta say this. It is original. It is an original idea. I give respect to Christopher Nolan for trying it. It just wasn't executed very well in my eyes. It's beautiful. The visual effects, stunning. Gorgeous. Okay, the score, great for the scene. Great. Okay, now I'm going to talk about this scene. So Matthew McConaughey falls into the Gargantua, and then he goes into this, like, scene from 2001: A Space Odyssey when he sees so many colors, it looks like a rainbow and shit. So he goes into it, and then once he reaches the bottom layer, it turns out he's surrounded by hallways. And what it turns out? He's behind the bookshelf of Murph's room. What does that mean? He is the ghost. Matthew McConaughey is the ghost. When I first saw this scene, I was thinking, what the fuck? Is this hell? Is Matthew McConaughey dead? But nope, because, oh my god, turns out this place, this void in space and time, is a fifth dimension, created by fifth dimensional beings, which turned out to be humans from the future. And they knew this shit was gonna happen, so they created this place where Matthew McConaughey can go into it, because they knew that Matthew McConaughey is gonna be over there. And they know that the person who would save the human race is Murph. They decide to make a room behind the bookshelf of Murph's room. So Matthew McConaughey can send Morse code to Murph on how to save the human race. And he did this by creating lines of dust on the floor. So his past self, Matthew McConaughey, can figure this out and find the coordinates for NASA. And then Matthew McConaughey is like, oh yeah, let me send Morse code to my watch, which is next to the shelf. So future Murph, who's played by Jessica Chastain, can find out about the watch. And then she realized that it's a Morse code message from her father. So she can figure that out, create the algorithm or equation, so she can save the human race. This scene was stupid. First off, if these fifth dimensional beings are extremely intelligent, extremely smart, why the fuck did they make this void? And if they knew that Matthew McConaughey was going to fall into the Gargantua, why couldn't they create something else? Like, you know, so they could send Matthew McConaughey in time to talk with his past self about how to save the human race and shit? No. They're like, oh, we're going to make this as complicated as possible. So we're going to create this void, which is hidden behind a bookshelf. So Murph wouldn't know you're there. Even though you can't alter the past, you can interact with it anyway. So you can do lines of dust by using gravity. Ooh! Oh my god. So, that's the thing though. Matthew McConaughey has the power to change shit in this room. He does, apparently, because he can affect lines of dust. He can do Morse code with the ticking of the watch. He can knock books off the shelf. But they said he can't alter the past. What? He just affected it! Okay? And also, here's the thing I don't understand, because this is basically time travel. Something had to have happened first. Alright? So, these fifth dimensional beings, they knew Matthew McConaughey was going on this journey, this interstellar journey to save the human race. But here's the problem. The only reason why he's on this journey in the first place is because he found out the lines of dust mean Morse code, which created coordinates for him to find NASA. So what happened in the beginning? He had to find NASA first, right? So he would know about the project, so he would be on this space shuttle. That had to have happened first, right? But no, that only happened because future Matthew McConaughey decides to make lines of dust. How does that work? Something had to have happened first. So what happened first? Did Matthew McConaughey just go seek out that NASA anyway? Did he? Or did he not? That part made no sense to me whatsoever. Something had to have happened first. Then he could try to affect it. But future self was sending his past self a message, which already happened, apparently. How? I don't get it. So that means someone rewrote history. It wasn't Matthew McConaughey that rewrote history, it was something else, the fifth dimensional beings. Which means that if they had the power to do that, why didn't they save the human race sooner? So Matthew McConaughey didn't have to go onto this stupid spaceship mission so he can leave his children behind. Oh my god. That part made no sense to me. I'm sorry, this 20-minute long scene, which was beautiful, but it made no sense. And also, his son, who grows up to be Casey Affleck, he's such a douche. I guess it makes sense because Matthew McConaughey didn't pay enough attention to him anyway. He loves Murph. He favors Murph anyway. But man, Casey Affleck becomes a douche because he knows that his wife and son are sick because of the dust bowls. So Casey Affleck's like, no, Murph, you cannot go into that room. Okay, I'm a dick. So Murph is like, okay, I'm going to burn some crops. Oh yeah, that's the thing I don't understand. If corn is the most valuable food source, why do people keep destroying it or driving through it? There's this scene where Matthew McConaughey sees this drone or something like that, and he's trying to figure out where it's heading, so he's trying to capture it, so he decides to drive through a cornfield. I don't understand. Corn is so valuable in this world, you destroy it? You should be killed for that! And Murph decides to burn up corn. Why? I understand she wants to get the attention of her brother, but do you have to destroy food? These guys are not heroes, they're dicks! Murph is a bitch! So anyway, Matthew McConaughey realized that Murph from the future understands Morse code. She figured out the equation, so the whole void is collapsing on itself, I guess. So Matthew McConaughey is like, okay, I'm going through space and time. Bye, T.A.R.S. And T.A.R.S. is like, okay, see you later, Matthew McConaughey. Bye. So Matthew McConaughey sees the Endurance again. Remember the scene I told you about where Anne Hathaway was dumb and she was handshaking the Anomaly? Yeah, the Anomaly happens to be Matthew McConaughey. He's shaking hands with Anne Hathaway the entire time. So yeah. He was able to surpass space and time, and he can interact with the past and affect the past, but nope. He's like, oh, fuck it, I'm just gonna change some shit up in Murph's room, and that's it. I thought that he, who cares so much about the human race, would do so much more than that! Anyway, so then it cuts to Matthew McConaughey being saved by these people, and he's in the hospital, he wakes up, and it turns out that about 8 decades have passed, I think. Because they said he was 45, but now he's like 127. So almost 80 years have passed. So Matthew McConaughey's first question is, how's my daughter? And everyone's like, oh yeah, Murph, she's fine. She's old, she's dying, but she's fine. She's gonna visit you soon anyway. And it turns out that they're on this station, which is called Cooper Station. It reminds me of the scene from Inception when Leonardo DiCaprio and Ellen Page are walking around the walls. So yeah, it reminds me of that because this whole thing is like circular. So it was pretty cool. And they made a replica of the farmhouse that Matthew McConaughey used to own. Then he realized that T.A.R.S is still alive. So he was trying to fix T.A.R.S, so he was checking up the settings and stuff. And I love this scene because T.A.R.S is awesome. He's like, okay, T.A.R.S, how's this? 90% honesty, 60% humor. And T.A.R.S is like, oh, knock knock. And Matthew McConaughey's like, how about 55%? And then T.A.R.S said another joke, and Matthew McConaughey's like, do you really want 50? Do you want 50% humor? That was funny. And then after the scene is a very touching scene. Matthew McConaughey decides to check up on his daughter, who is played by Ellen Burstyn. I think that's the actress name. And my god, this scene was really tragic because as soon as Matthew McConaughey walks into the hospital, he sees all these unfamiliar faces. Basically, they're his grandkids, his nephews, nieces, and cousins from into the future. But Matthew McConaughey is still 45 years old. He looks and sounds 45. So he didn't age a day. But everyone else did. And his daughter especially. His daughter is older than Matthew McConaughey. And this was really tragic because Murph is dying. And she even told Matthew McConaughey, you have to leave. And Matthew McConaughey's like, why? I'm not leaving anywhere. I left you before. I'm not leaving now. I gotta stay with you. And Murph is like, no parent should ever watch their child die before them. So then she tells Matthew McConaughey to go off and save Anne Hathaway because she's stuck on that planet. Because apparently, Matthew McConaughey loves Anne Hathaway. So Matthew McConaughey's like, okay, fine, I'm gonna leave you, Murph. Bye. I'm not even gonna ask what happened to my own son. Seriously, I didn't get that. He didn't even ask about what happened to his son. He didn't care about him that much then. Ugh. Matthew McConaughey's like, okay, I'm gonna steal a spaceship, bring T.A.R.S along with me. T.A.R.S is gonna be my R2-D2. We're gonna steal a ship, and we're gonna go save Anne Hathaway. And then, that's where the movie ends. Honestly, though, I want to see the ending to that. I want Matthew McConaughey to save Anne Hathaway, because I did like the two characters, even though they have no romantic chemistry whatsoever. Still, I want to see them. I want to see him save her. And yeah, even though I really hated that 20-minute long scene, I did like this movie. I did. And sure, it seems like I'm shitting on this movie. Honestly, I did have a fun time. I did. I just wish that 20-minute long scene was cut out. I still had a fun time. And I do want a sequel to this movie because I'm like, oh my god, you know what? This is a great ending. I don't mind an Interstellar 2 where he's going to save Anne Hathaway. That's going to be awesome. That's my thoughts. That's my review on Interstellar. If you guys don't agree with me, I understand. If you guys think I'm dumb, I understand. But that's how I feel about the movie. Like I said, I will see this movie again. Once I get it on Blu-ray. I'm not going to see it in theaters again. I'm sorry. Too many movies are coming out. But I will get it on Blu-ray. This movie is gorgeous. The score is great. The acting is great. Yes, I did have problems with the story. I did have problems with some of the characters. And I did have problems with Matt Damon. And I did have problems with that 20-minute long scene. But this was an enjoyable movie. I don't think it's bad. I think it's just a good, fun, enjoyable movie. I just don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's a masterpiece. So, if you watched the movie, write down in the comments below, how do you feel about it? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know. Well guys, if you like this video, please click the like button. If you like to subscribe, there's an annotation here for subscribing. So until next time guys, see you later.